one-off, one-of-a-kind Jockey shifter for a Sportster. We're going to use 5 inches of it. 5 inches is all you need anyway. Okay, I'm going to focus on some bigger stuff today. I'm going to reinstall the clutch, which is now an auto clutch, and I'm going to work out the linkage for the shifter. I've mostly got it worked out. It's going to need some adjusting and fine-tuning, so let's get started on that. Auto clutch here, back from the company that makes this kit. I imagine these are parts we won't need anymore. So there's our clutch. Kind of an interesting looking piece there. So, looks like our first step is to remove the 12 outer screws here from the outside of the clutch pack. Step 1 is to remove the 12 outside bolts. Okay, so here's our top plate. This is a one-piece unit. This is what they manufacture for your clutch, and this has got the equivalent to a diaphragm spring built in, it seems like. And what's interesting is if you look here, it looks like they drilled all 12 holes, potentially in the wrong spot. Oh, and they that's awesome. So they broke a tap off inside the threaded hole. I don't know if you can see that. There's 12 screws altogether. There's 24 holes. So they have drilled the first set, and as they were tapping it, they got their tap stuck, and they just left it in there for me to deal with. That's very cool. I don't know if you can see that. It looks like they made some attempt to remove it, and then just gave up on it altogether. That's very cool. So we can either spend all day trying to get that out of there, or we can leave it and hope it doesn't work itself loose with the millions of times that this will be spinning around and get caught up in the primary somewhere and destroy something important. I don't know. All right, well, I just got off the phone with the bike owner, and he's willing to take the risk. So we'll do that. Let's just keep on the installation. We've got it all documented here, I guess. So, yeah, let's get this clutch installed. Alrighty, here we go. Okay, I think before I Loctite everything, I'm going to get this assembled, and I'm going to put it on the ground, and I'm going to make sure it rolls in first gear, which I think is what it's supposed to do. Let's put our clutch nut back on. Make sure you have the side labeled out, facing out when you reinstall it. Yeah, the clutch is left hand, the crank is right hand thread. And a good way to remember which one is which, clutch has an L in it. L for left. Crankshaft, crank, has an R. R for right. Left and right. Reverse and standard. I got the clutch installed. I was very confused by the instructions, so I called up the company He confirmed that there's no need to use any of the stock parts on this application. He says that sometimes the inner bearing on a clutch on other models of bikes will be used just to keep oil from pooling inside the clutch assembly. That's not an issue on this one. So we're going to take this off. We're going to lose this, the adjuster stud, because that's not necessary. And then we're going to red Loctite and torque the stator and the clutch basket according to spec. You can get yourself a fancy clutch tooth tool or whatever they're called, and they go between the primary chain and the teeth on the clutch basket or the crank. But you could also just use a piece of, this is 1 inch by 1/4 inch. Actually, I think it's just 3/16. This is just mild steel flat stock, and it just fits perfectly between the two, like so, and it locks one against the other so that there's no way they can rotate. So here's our primary cover. Typically you would have an O-ring, and then you would have your clutch cable coming out of here. But because we don't have a clutch, we don't have a clutch cable. So what I'm going to do is take this is a 5/16 fine thread bolt, and I'm going to put a washer on there and then the O-ring underneath, and that should keep it leak free. So there we go. So that should seal up our primary from leaking. The inspection cover for the primary chain has still got paint on it, so let's go scrape that off of there before we start rebuilding. So we've got a new gasket kit for the primary, which includes all the rubber seals and O-rings. So we've got 2 O-rings, 1 per screw for the inspection cover, and then 1 that goes around the cover itself, just like so. It'll pop in there just like that. It is directional. You'll know if you get it wrong. Alright. And our second screw. Doesn't need to be super tight on those. Alright, and we're going to replace the seal for the shifter shaft, which is here. Okay, that's done. And because we have no clutch adjuster, we can actually put this on, our clutch cover, and the gasket and everything, which is much easier to do when it's flat like this. I don't know if you've ever tried to put one of these on while the kickstand's on, or while the bike's on the kickstand rather, but it will just keep falling out and be the biggest pain in the ass. There we go. Alright, let's get this primary back on. Let's start by loosening up the chain tensioner so that it goes on a little bit easier. We're going to recheck our chain tension anyway. Alright, there we go. There we go. Alright, gasket's on. Throw a bolt in there to hold it in place. And with that, I believe it's time for a break. So the next thing I want to do is start working on the shifter linkage. And here is what I have designed. Now this is a little long. It hasn't been cut to size yet. So we mount it here, like so. That's where our shifter is going to be pivoting, and the linkage will tie it to the back to the shifter itself. Okay, so let's start by getting our shifter arm installed. And it's gonna be sitting right about there, just like so. We may just put a bend here, and just bring it back up a little bit. There's our shifter linkage. Let's mount up this battery tray just temporarily, just so I don't lose my place and forget where the shifter needs to fit in. So this is a 10-inch piece. We're going to use 5 inches of it. 5 inches is all you need anyway. Let's get it cut. Alright, so there's the adjustable rod for our shift linkage. There it goes. Fit. Alright. There's our shifter. I'm going to put a little bend right about here, right in front of the battery, and kick it back over to the back of the seat area here, because the key's going to be mounted here. So I want it to kind of sweep over while still leaving it enough room to actuate. But yeah, there we go. So there's our shifter linkage. Working pretty good. We'll pick this up in the morning. Well, we're going to make a shifter today. And to do that, I've got what I've been wanting to get myself for a while, which is a benchtop drill press. So let's get this unboxed and set up. Instructions. Well, alright. Here we go. Finally got a drill press. Little bitty guy. So this is the pool ball that we're using ultimately for the shifter, because I haven't done this kind of project before. I ordered a cheap one. This was like $8 on Amazon. And we're going to try with this one first. My plan ultimately is to epoxy a threaded insert in there. I don't have one at the moment, so I think I'm just going to thread this. It's not going to be strong, but it'll let me get at least a bolt in there or a stud that I can just throw on the shifter bar so that we can test fit it. So I just popped a 3/8 bolt in there just to get the idea. I'm going to cut off the end of it and then see how it fits on the shifter. Alright, so there's a little simple little stud just to stick out of the bottom, and we'll throw that on the shifter. We're just doing a test fit today. We got our shift ball, we got our shifter arm, and that just slides right in there like that, just for now. Man, that shit is heavy though. We'll see how it works. that's where we're at so far. We'll see what the owner thinks of that. I'm going to fine tune it so that it sits where he wants it to sit. Alright, so with a little bit more finessing, I got this bent in just the right way so that it fully clears the shock mount and also clears the rider when he's on it. So what we're going to do now, because remember this is just a stud that's in the bottom of this pool ball, is I'm going to weld a 3/8 stud onto here, and then I'm going to, on the actual shifter that I'm making, I'm going to epoxy resin a 3/8 threaded insert inside the pool ball so that it threads on just like any other shifter would, and can be changed out or whatever, you know, or that shift knob can be used on something else. But yeah, so there's our shifter. It's a long boy by request, so alright, let's keep going. Alright, so I've got two things I want to do here. This is the pivot for the shifter arm, and I'm going to just tack this in place on the back to keep it from moving around any. Make it a nice solid platform from the shifter. And this is our shifter arm, and we're going to weld a 3/8 coarse thread stud in there and get that ready to accept a shifter. Let's get welding. Here's our shifter. Cool. There we go. So we'll just do that with the actual ball, and we are good to go on our shifter. Alright, we're just centering our bit in the center of the plate here, and then this ball will fit nicely right under the center. Center that up. So it's going to look like that. Just like that. Boom. There's the shifter. So let's get this epoxied into place now that I'm happy with the way it fits. We'll be good to go. Alright, make sure we clean that off, make sure none of that JB weld gets on the outside surface. But there we go. So there's our insert threaded into the shifter. And once that dries, we'll throw it back on there and our shifter's good to go. Alright guys, it's been 24 hours since I epoxied this into place. So it's good and solid now. And there it is, mounted up, ready for the road. I finished this up with some socket head screws, because I always like the way these look on a finished product here. Stainless, of course. There we go. I tightened this up a little bit so it wasn't quite as loose, but still has enough play in it to move freely. And there we go. So there is our custom, one-off, one-of-a-kind Jockey shifter for a Sportster. Cool. Keep watching. Thanks.